you have not been around for the past few weeks, you might not have heard about the challenge I accepted on behalf of this congregation. Let's preach the entire Bible in 1 year. 66 books in 52 weeks, it's impossible. But if we mash together 1st and 2nd Kings and some of the letters that were written by the same author, I think we can do it. Now, I'm not going to do it alone. We have 3 people in this church who are working through the ordination process. Emma Worrell left last week to go to Princeton Theological School. YK already has his degree, so he has a huge interview coming this year, and part of his requirements are to preach. So he will be preaching at least twice this fall. We also have Janice McCrosty, who's currently at Drew Theological School. She's, as well as our youth director, our seminary intern this year. So she will be preaching a few times this winter. I've spread them all out, but they will help me, as well as probably other people, preach the entire Bible in 1 year. If you missed the sermons about Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus, you can find those online at YouTube or on Facebook. Today, I want to focus on the 4th book of the Bible, Numbers. We won't go chronologically through the whole book of the Bible, or else we would stall out on the prophets after 3 months. But for the first 5 weeks, we're going to go straight through the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Torah. The Bible is about divided in half. The Old Testament, the New Testament, the First Testament, the Second Testament is a good way not to offend your Jewish friends. Don't call their holy book old. Just say it's the First Testament. That's fine. The First Testament was originally written in Hebrew, and some chapters were written in Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Greek. And of course, it's been translated a number of times over thousands of years to land in our hands as we're standing in the bookstore deciding which translation we like best. The book of Numbers has 2 different titles. In Hebrew, it was once translated as in the wilderness, focusing on the many chapters of this book that tell the story of what happened when the Israelites were freed from slavery in Egypt. And then they began wandering for about 38 years through the wilderness, in the wilderness, to find the promised land that God had told them would have milk and honey, and they set all their dreams on. So that Hebrew translation, by titling it In the Wilderness, focused on that journey, which is described in this book. In Greek, however, it was translated Numbers, to focus on the 2 censuses that Warren just read to us. The first census was taken as soon as the people got out of slavery. How many people did God, along with Moses, rescue from slavery? And it tells us how many people were counted. How many men over the age of 20? Almost 40 years later, the second census was how many people were about to enter Canaan, the land of promise that they had been looking for. An entire generation had passed, and it says so many people died, only a handful of people were left to see the promised land. But this Greek translation, by calling it Numbers, focuses on those 2 censuses. And that's what I want to do today. Can you please raise your hand if you are a man over the age of 20? Thank you. If we had been present at those 2 censuses, you would have been the ones counted because you would have been eligible for war. Oh, your face just dropped. And the same was true going into the Promised Land, because this was a community that was in the wilderness. They were foreigners, this mass of people trying to make their way through land that was not theirs, and they had to know, what is our strength as we are up against other people? That is not true for us today. But we do count people. We are not in this as a faith community for survival. We are here for growth, for our personal spiritual growth, as well as growth as a faith community. So we do a head count. We are not we're not counting just the men who are 20 years up and older. We count everybody who participates in the ministries of this church. Not for warfare, but for the ministries. Jason, can you show the next picture? Studies have been done about churches, what makes a vital church and what makes someone vital in Christian faith, with a vibrant faith. If you attend worship, so good job, you all attended worship, check. How many people are making new professions of faith? When people stand before the congregation and say, I want to join this church, I'm beginning to believe, whether it's in the confirmation class or as adults, that's making new disciples and an important step to spiritual growth. Joining small groups is an important and valuable way to grow in faith. I know people have told me, Heather, this church is so big, I don't know everybody. That's okay. If you can know the people in a small group, they can help you and encourage you in your spiritual journey. Missions are those opportunities to care for those in need. When Jesus says, care for the poor, the stranger, the immigrant, the orphan, the widow, the homeless. When we feed people through the community food bank, through ASP, we build houses stronger and sturdier. There are so many different ways we serve, and you can read the glad tidings. Please read this newsletter online or in print, because it explains many ways that you can participate in small groups or missions. That's an important way to live out your faith, to put your faith into action, and you will grow in faith as you do that. How many times have we heard people come back from ASP saying, I thought I was there to help people, and I feel so different myself. It's been a blessing to me. Giving is another way we assess the vitality of our church. How are we as a faith community giving generously? It does something within us. When we say, I'm willing to sacrifice what I have to impact other people positively. These 5 markers of vitality are the ways that we do head counts today in this church, where we're not striving for survival, although some of you might feel like that with your home life. The kids just started school, but work is loading up. The point of this church, the purpose is for us to grow in faith and as a congregation. As I was reflecting with SPRC, the Staff Parish Relations Committee, and with this staff, we realized we have so many wonderful, incredible ministries that are vibrant. One way we'd like to strengthen our ministries this year is to focus on children's programming. Because we have a lot of kids in this church. We know we can get more. We have 100 kids come to VBS. But we need more adults to help supervise. We have leaders willing to lead, but we need adults who can supervise because we want to make sure all the kids are safe. There's a piece of paper in your bulletins called the Safe Sanctuary Guidelines for Denville Community Church this year. If you can pull this out so I can share it with you, this is one way we think we can strengthen our church, is if everybody knows what we are striving for and what we expect. You can show the next picture. Children are valuable participants in the life of the church and in the family of God. Jesus said, whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. Jesus also said, if any of you put a stumbling block before one of these little ones, it would be better for you if a great millstone were fastened around your neck and you were drowned in the depth of the sea. Our Christian faith calls us to offer both hospitality and protection to the little ones, our children. The purpose of this safe sanctuary policy is to keep our children and youth safe from abuse. Our basic safety procedures include all paid staff and volunteers who work with youth are expected to have completed an online criminal background check and a safe sanctuary training, registering it online. We just realized that we can offer that online safe sanctuary training in-house, and we're going to offer it tomorrow at 7 o'clock, but you can do it online as well. The 2-adult rule means that 2 adults should be present at all times. Avoid all 1 adult, 1 child situations, such as closed-door bathroom breaks. The 5 years older rule means that adults should be at least 5 years older than the oldest youth. Unshaded windows in all classroom doors. We have open-door counseling for our youth. An annual orientation to remind volunteers and paid staff of appropriate behavior, accepted policies, and procedures. That's what we're doing right now, an annual orientation. Our congregational plan for responding to allegations of abuse. State law requires that anyone who has reason to believe that a child, youth, or vulnerable adult has been abused or neglected must report it immediately to the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, CP&P of New Jersey. Our job is not to try to investigate the suspected abuse, but to document the specifics that cause us to suspect abuse and to carefully report them. New Jersey law does not require proof to call the hotline. Follow this procedure in response to a child's complaint or allegations of child abuse occurring inside the church or during a church program or activity. First, remove the child to a safe place. The safety of the victim must be a primary concern. Secondly, do not confront the alleged abuser with anger or hostility. Treat them with dignity, but immediately remove them from further involvement. Third, report the incident to the Director of Youth Ministry and the pastor, me. And together we will notify the authorities and document the situation by following the steps below. Call CP&P Child Abuse Hotline, 1-877 New Jersey Abuse. They will instruct us of the steps we should follow for the specific situation. For sexual abuse cases, CP&P will contact a local center and dispatch a trained interviewer to interview the child. We would call the police if the child is in immediate danger, and we would call the Skylands District Superintendent, Reverend Eunice Vega Perez. We would need to keep a written record of all steps taken in response to the allegation, and none but the pastor should be authorized to speak to the media on behalf of the congregation. And that's true anytime. If for any reason we have media outside, please let me do it. We have a PR person, Ted Dangler, and I'm the one who's supposed to talk to media in situations like that. In conclusion, you can flip it over. Thank you for being willing to ensure the physical and emotional safety and spiritual growth of the children and youth involved in the ministries of our church. May God be glorified in all that we do. We ask that you sign and date this right now. Our ushers have pens if you need a pen, and then you can pass the papers to the edges. It simply means that you have read the policy and understood the expectations. This is the first part of 3 things we need for those who supervise children's programming, and we hope this makes it easier to have more volunteers when we need people to help supervise confirmation class or youth group, handbells, chimes for the children, choir, VBS, and Sunday school. We greatly appreciate you doing this. So I'll give you a couple seconds to sign that and pass it down. YK has to sign it. I have to sign it. It is the 8th of September. Thank you. Thank you for helping us keep our children safe. You know, on the news, many churches struggle with that. We don't want this to be a problem here. So thank you all for being on board with this. Jason, can you show the next slide? I want to remind you of these markers of vitality for our faith and for our church. And as we move into a time of reflection, I'd like you to prayerfully consider, what might God be calling you to in the next 6 months to do above and beyond what you have been doing recently or what you have been ever done maybe? Perhaps you could make worship more of a priority. Or if you've never said, I am a Christian, in front of a group of people, you could talk to me about that and we could find a time for you to join the church as a member. Perhaps there's a small group that you could join if you've never done it. Marissa has a new small group for people ages 20 to 30 that's based on music. We have so many different opportunities for small groups. In a moment, the United Methodist women are going to come forward for their installation. They offer small groups. The children's small groups are Sunday school, youth group, confirmation, the music groups. For mission, we have a number of missions that you could participate in. ASP is the one that requires the most amount of time. You volunteer an entire week in the summer. And there are fundraising projects throughout the year. Others, like the Community Food Bank and Family Promise, are just one-day events. Even Bridges, it's just a few hours to go into Newark to deliver food and supplies to those who are struggling with housing. And giving generously. Together, if we give generously, we will be able to do more and more and more to make a positive impact on the world as a faith community. So during this time of reflection, YK is going to play, and you can be prayerful. Let me begin our prayer. Lord God, thank you for helping us understand how we can grow in faith. Lord God, we're not like the ancient Israelites who are wandering through a foreign land just trying to survive. Lord God, many of us feel comfortable where we are, familiar with the people around us, grateful for the blessings in our lives, and this is an opportunity for us to grow in faith. Lord God, will you please bless each one of us? Help us understand what it is we could do. Lord, put people in our lives who encourage us to grow in faith, and may this church be all that you desire it to be. In Jesus' name, we continue our prayers privately.